pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
Welcome to Lifestyle Housing Radio, your weekly real-life real estate investing radio show here on CILU 102.7 FM, luradio.ca, and LifeStyleHousing.ca. I'm your host, Kevin Bunzeluk, and today my guest is talking about mistakes that real estate investors make. It's an awesome episode. I'm talking to Steven Van Kouwenberg today. Let's get right to it. Hey, Steven, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. So you want to start by just telling me about your background and kind of how you got into real estate investing?
Sure, no problem. Well, my name is Steven Van Kouwenberg. I live in Oklahoma City. I originally was born in Dover, New Jersey. I lived there for majority of my grade school years, and then junior high-ish, I moved to California with my mom, single mom. My brother went to a foster home when I was around 9. And when he was 9, when I was about 2 or 3, and my mom wanted to try to make a difference, and New Jersey just wasn't happening. My dad moved there. He left us when we were around 2, when I was 2 years old. And I went to California the first time to meet my dad, and that was a nightmare. And then I went to Oklahoma for college, and I was in a band and kind of hung out and toured the country with some friends, and I was amazed that they could travel and they never considered worried about money. Now, I grew up very poor, so money was constantly on my mind. How am I going to do things if I want things? I have to work for them. I've been busting tables when I was 10 years old. My mom would work 3 jobs, and she would be a waitress, and I would bust tables around 10 years old. So I've always been working. That's all I thought. That's how you make money, is to work hard. Anyway, one day, I'm not a reader, but one day, this 18-year-old punk rocker handed me a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And this is around 1996-ish, 97-ish. I read this book, and I did exactly what it said. I started buying assets. I sold everything I owned. I was like overweight, on the edge of disaster, living on a couch, DJing in clubs on the weekends, and I started buying real estate. I sold my microwave, TV, and every time I could get $2,000, I would try to find an owner-financed deal in the newspaper, and sure enough, in 1999, I did my first deal. It was an owner finance, and that's when it all started. And now, 2000, it's almost 16. I got 130 units. Never stopped buying for 10 years. I did it slow and steady, part-time. Every time I DJ'd, I'd pay myself $100, and I'd buy an owner finance deal. Did that until 2006, and the rest is history. And in 2012, I sold the business I started, and I went full-time into real estate and wrote the Savvy Landlord book. And here I am. You're my first interview on the radio, on the podcast, homie.
Right on. And you still no microwave or what?
No, I got a microwave now. I got it built. I went up to upgrade. Now, I live in my dream crib. And then, I think it was like 2 years ago, I bought first of all, I live in a neighborhood. I don't know if you believe in the law of attraction, but my wife and I, several years ago, would drive to this neighborhood, and we would wish that we would live in this neighborhood, and these houses were way out of our league. And it's just crazy through a law of attraction and being in real estate. I got a smoking deal in an amazing neighborhood, and I just bought an oven microwave combo. So,
Nice.
I thought I would never thought I could do that. Now, my dream back then, as a child, I lived in a one-bedroom apartment my whole life. My mom lived in the living room, and I really thought that I just wanted to live in a house. First of all, I wanted to have friends over, but I couldn't. My mom was like, no, you can't have anybody over here because, she lived in the living room. And my dream was simple, was just to live in a house. I never lived in a house. I've always dreamed of living in a house. It's just surreal and crazy that some broke, poor kid from New Jersey, California, could own 100, and I have 130 places I could sleep. 130 toilets I could use or more. I mean, it's just, when you think about you can do anything, it's amazing. And I'm not super educated. I'm not some savvy, 5 degree. I have no degree. I dropped out of college. I just started buying assets for some book that someone gave me. I would have never bought a $15 book. Mm-hmm. That's why I wrote a book, so I can help people so they can live financially free.
Do you count kind of that drive that you have to your background a bit? I feel like some people are like maybe middle class and kind of happy there and maybe afraid to kind of step out of those boundaries more. But
yeah, no doubt. Like, the thing is, I could figure I had nothing to lose. Why not? I think a lot of people are fearful that they're going to make a mistake or they're going to buy the wrong house. I help people and talk to bankers, and I ask bankers why you don't buy houses, and they're scared. But I came from nothing, so I don't really care. But my ultimate drive, I don't want to be poor. I was tired of not having Christmas. I was tired of, being second rate, and and I drive. Today that drive is the same. I have the same drive. It's just I don't need the money. I don't do it for the money. Now I do it because I get to help people. I get to live my dream. I mean, I get to write books, and at 4 o'clock you call me. Hey, you want to do an interview? I'm like, no doubt, no problem. Other people, they can't get off work. It's just the freedom. That's what drives me. It's like I want to be free.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess we're going to be talking a bit about some mistakes, and I think that's a good point, though, that you said a lot of people are fearful of making mistakes, but I find the most successful people are the ones that are okay with going out and making lots of mistakes, and that's how they kind of build their successes.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I mean, there's a great book by John Maxwell called Failing Forward, and it's a great read, and the more you fail, the more you succeed. And the more failing is feedback. I remember the very first deal, one of the first, every time I got $2,000, I went and bought a house. I bought them from this investor, which is one of my mentors to this day. But, he hustled me. He was selling houses at 10% interest, $2,000 down. And when I look at it now, because I sell houses to young investors, I was doing all the work and he was collecting all the money. But I bought a house that had no water heater in it. Someone put concrete in a sewer line. I lost $10,000 on that property, but it still made money, though. I mean, it still was an asset. Every month, I made $100 a month. Now, that investor, obviously, he made way more because he bought it for $30,000 and he sold it to me for $55,000. But he had no risk because I put $2,000 down and I was making monthly payments. But you have to fail. You got to give it a try. That's the biggest thing. You got to pull the trigger. What's the worst thing that could happen? Lose $10,000 or lose $50,000, but you can gain millions of dollars compounded over time. I mean, for the first 10 years, I didn't do anything. I just bought a house every once in a while, but it just grew from there. Mm-hmm. But I had to take a step of faith. I had to make a mistake, and of course, I'd make tons of them.
Well, what are some of the mistakes you made?
Man, I got that. My whole book, my book, The Savvy Landlord, and you can get it on Amazon, is, I remember a guy read the book, and he emailed me. He's like, I felt sorry for you when I read the book, because I wrote about all the struggles I had to go to get to where I was. And the point was I wanted to help people not to make those same mistakes. One mistake was I got a house under contract, and I wrote the $500 earnest money to the guy, to the wholesaler, and he disappeared. Renting to the wrong tenant. Not hiring the wrong realtor to sell the property. I mean, I have thousands of stories of mistakes. I'm learning about a guy right now that I'm in a lawsuit over. A tenant, he's suing me because there's a gas leak in the house. And I knew, my property manager asked me about this guy, and he's like, hey, but I was looking at the money. I was looking at, man, this house has been sitting vacant. I need to rent it out. So I made a haste decision, and I rented it out to this joker. And here I am. I've calculated I've lost $3,000 just screwing around with this jerk. Just a bunch of hoopla, court stuff, and we've just begun. I tried to kick him out of the property. I couldn't get him out. And, and I look at it, every time I spend money, every time I lose, and, I never finished school, I look at it as a college degree. You can go to college, spend $40,000 and get a degree, and I know people that have a $40,000 degree and they're making $10 an hour. Or I can spend $3,000 and cut my teeth on a real estate investment deal and know that I'll never do that again. But I just keep going forward. The great thing is it's, in the United States, I don't know about Canada, but I can write all those mistakes off. Cost of doing business. So, I don't know.
Yeah, and I guess if you're learning from it and growing it, getting better, then there you go.
For sure.
It's a good point, though, that you're, I guess, still making mistakes and probably still expect to make mistakes in the future, no matter how much you grow and your business and that too, right?
Yeah, the mistakes that I make now are like I'm trying to leverage my time. So I have a girl go down to the courthouse for me. Years ago, I used to go and file evictions on people. I thought it was cool for me to roll down there and, I'm the big bad landlord. And I realized it's dumb. My time, I sit in the courtroom for 2 hours listening to deadbeat tenants not pay their landlord. But then I started hiring a girl, and she goes down there, and she made mistakes. So I'm learning to let go. It's to really grow your business. You got to get out of the business. You got to let other people run your business, and the key is to find the right people, train them properly. But I make mistakes. The girl went down there and said the wrong thing, and said that my attorney was there, and we had to file a dismissal. So we wasted. I was trying to calculate. I had to pay that girl 2-3 hours to prepare for the case, 2 hours to drive the freak down there and waste time, and we paid the attorney $300. So I got like $600, let's say, or $500 in the deal, and we had to walk away because we didn't have the lease was ambiguous. Well, the dates were wrong on the lease. And since my attorney was like, look, man, we can't go in front of the judge and, kick this dude out because you look dumb because your lease was wrong. You see what I'm saying? So I learned that lesson right there. First of all, I need to hire the right girl to make sure she's stupid anal and make sure all my ducks are around. I just got a $500 hickey. I won't make that mistake again. That's for sure.
Nope. Right on. So what about when you, I guess it was a few years ago, you transitioned to a full-time investor? What was that kind of experience like? Was there some fear in what would happen doing that, or were you kind of already set in your real estate by then?
I never thought it would happen. It was, I think in all growth, it's either you go this way or that way. You had to make a choice. And at that time, I was running a business. It was an online bridal business, which is even funnier. I used to run a trade show called OKBride.com, Oklahoma Bridal Show, and it was a very successful business, but it consumed 40 hours of my life a week or more. And I just bought an apartment building that needed a significant rehab, it was 14 units, and it needed everything done. And I was, inexperienced, and I didn't really know how to do an apartment, and I was scared, and I had to choose. So I chose to go all in real estate, and I sold that business, the bridal business, and I just went in all real estate, and my business just exploded. When I finally just focused on real estate, before, for the first 10 years, it was just kind of part-time. Then in 2012, when I went all in, it just exploded. I just started developing better relationships with banks and started borrowing better money and then rehabbed that apartment building and went through the hell of that and never looked back.
You're listening to Lifestyle Housing Radio on CILU.
It was forced on me. I had to make a choice, and I think that's just like with young people that are out there, young or old, or you might be 60 thinking about your first real estate deal. It's either do it now or never. You got to do it, and I had to make a decision. And a lot of people can't make a decision. Colin Powell, the military superstar or whatever, he's like, that's our problem with society is that we're indecisive. you want to be wealthy, you want to be free, you want to be a slave to your job. You don't want that anymore. Then make a decision. Buy a rental property. It makes $200 a month. Can you live off of $2,000 a month? I mean, you're a young guy. I looked at your website. Can you live off of $2,000-$3,000 a month? That's only 10 units, $200 a month, and you're financially free. But it takes a decision. You got to make the decision. You can always go back. When my mom dropped me off in Oklahoma and she drove back to California, my mom was rad. She's like, you can always come home, and I never came home. But I'm just thankful that my mom was supportive, and she's like, you wanted to go to college here, go to college, great. But I had to make a decision, and eventually I made a decision to drop out. You got to make the decision. I think that's the most important thing for anyone that wants to be in anything or do anything. Just make a decision. Start today. Spend 10 minutes looking at 10 houses. Maybe not, physically, but maybe just 10 houses on the internet and see if they're deals.
Yeah, I know a lot of people sit on the sidelines saying one day, and never actually take the action. Maybe it's that fear of making a mistake, or just they don't know really. I don't know, but
I think they need to do it. I always say, what's the worst thing that could happen? We're bummed about this tenant. I've never really been sued before. I've sued a lot of tenants before, but I've never really been sued. Like, dude, this guy sued me. I'm like, okay, but what's the worst thing that could happen? I love Henry Ford said, he's like, you can take all my millions or billions of dollars away, but it's all in my head. I can get it back. That's true. It's like, I was married and I had 5 houses at that time I was married, and I got divorced. Now I have 130 of them. Does that make sense? So you can only, if it's in your mind, but if it's in you let your mind fail if you don't do it. Your mind's playing tricks on you. You've got to make a decision to go do it. And I don't know how to translate that. I don't know, the simple thing is, this is why I do the podcast myself, and I know you have that same heart and mission, just go and do it. And if you can't do it, hold someone else's hand. Be a partner with someone. There's real estate investors out there that partner deals. I have a guy that, he's an experienced real estate investor, but he lives in Houston, Texas, which is 8 hours away from me, and we partner on deals. He has the money, and I find the deal, and I manage it for him, and he's a passive investor because he can't find deals in Houston. He can't find great deals. And I'm considering that too. In Indiana, I met this guy, and he's killing it. His numbers are so hot and so good. In Indiana, I'm like, man, you can buy a $25,000 house in Indiana and rent it out for $750 a month. That's crazy numbers. Mm-hmm. That's like a $300-$400 a month cash flow.
So I know a lot of entrepreneurs are kind of have that lone wolf mentality where they want to do everything themselves. And you had mentioned kind of stepping away from the business and kind of letting other people. Can you talk about some of the systems you've used to build your business to that scale, and maybe some of the key people that you've brought in to kind of help move you forward in that way?
Man, that's a great question. I think, I learned, reading the book, The E-Myth, I'm in the way. But the greatest thing I ever did was hire a very anal, detailed, meticulous person. Her name is Liz, and she's basically a general manager. She's an office guru, and she set my business. I hired her a year ago, and the first thing she did, she came in and scanned every document, and we went completely paperless. And I was scared because I'm a pack rat, and I got closing docs and deeds and titles and all this other jazz. But I just had faith. If I'm ever going to grow this business, I've got to let go. And I think my business has grown. I don't know what the exact number is, probably 15%, just by me not doing every little thing. And you just have to try it. Find out, I'm studying virtual assistants right now, and I do a podcast myself. and I interview people over the phone, and I just interviewed this guy, and he kept saying, every 2 seconds. Well, it drove me crazy. And so I was like, man, I can go in, edit this dude's track for him, and not make him look funky. You know what I'm saying? So I'm in there, I'm like editing this guy's track. It's taking me 20 minutes to edit this guy's, to take out, and I'm only did 10 minutes of audio. And I was like, this is crazy. There's got to be a better way. So I go on a virtual assistant website. I post a job. I need someone to remove ums out of a podcast. It's an hour long, $15. The dude, I got like 20 people wanted to do it. I found this guy in Germany. He's incredible. That's what he does for a living. He gets off, editing tracks. Mm-hmm. And that guy saved me. How much time did he save me? So I paid him $15. It literally probably would have took me an hour because it was over an hour worth of audio, probably longer. I'd have to listen to that audio about 3 times. And so for $15, I got an hour of my life back. And that's what you got to do. You got to leverage your time. But those are the 2 latest decisions that I've made. Of course, outsourcing bookkeeping, outsourcing accounting. And I'm really anal about accounting. So, I'll hire one accountant to do my taxes and books, and I'll go right over to another accountant. I don't even know who they are. I'll pay them $100 just to review my documents to make sure that they're legit. Because, I don't want to go down 10, 15 years from now, I'm getting audited, and they're like, yeah, you did this wrong. Because I like to take as much deductions as healthy as what I'm, allowed to. But I don't want to be bitten, and I don't want to be a fool and say, well, this accountant said I can do that. Well, I want to make sure. So I outsource as much as I can, and then I also duplicate as much as I can within reason so I protect myself.
What does the future hold then for you?
Right now I'm just trying to, I'm at a level where I thought I would never be. My dream was 25 units and 50 units, and then when I got to 50 units, I thought I was going to be financially superstar. But then when I got to 50 units, it just created more problems. I had, a roof to put on it more often than I would budgeted. Taxes are higher. I'm spinning my wheels. And then so I set a goal for 100. And then after 100 hit, I was like, man, I need to reevaluate this deal. And where I'm at right now is I'm just trying to create enough reserves so I can make better sound decisions. For a while there, I was paying Peter to pay Paul, paying whatever the frick it is, paying, refinancing a house to pay off this and do this. Right now, I'm just trying to slow down because in 2014, I bought 37 houses. So I'm just I've only bought 15 this year. So I'm just toning it down. I got a mentor teaching me how to be a better financial wizard. I'm looking at better returns. And then I'm just trying to clean up my portfolio, meaning I'm getting rid of the crappy houses that are not performing as they should. And I'm just looking for better investments with, better quality construction or a better location. Instead of before in 2014, the banks opened up and they were just giving me money because my portfolio was so large. And I was just buying tons of deals with no money down because they would appraise. And it was almost like the heyday of 07, 08. But then it's catching up on me, and I can see where I need to reevaluate which houses I'm buying and why am I buying them. Is this a long-term investment? Is it, I realized the other day I had a house that I bought from a bank on a foreclosure. I'm thinking I'm getting a smoking deal. It's like a $40,000 house. I got it for $25,000. The bank gave it to me on a no money down deal. The landlord before me defaulted. I was having lunch with this banker. He gave me this house. Basically, I go in there, I sign the docs, and then when I started really running the numbers now with this girl Liz, she's been helping me run the numbers and really pinpoint your ROI on each unit. I realized this is a freaking nightmare. I got 3 tenants in 1 year. I probably put $3,000 to $6,000 in fix-up and repairs. Yeah, it sounds like a smoking deal. You're getting $600 a month on a $25,000 investment, but your holding costs, the vacancy rate, repairs, court costs, just a disaster. And so that's where I'm at right now. I'm just really, why am I, I turned down a deal yesterday that I normally would have bought 6 months or 8 months, and it's actually in a decent neighborhood. But, my mentor was like, bro, if you add in vacancy, management, and maintenance, you're only going to net maybe $50 or $80 a month. Is it really, worth your time at the scale of where you're at? So I realized, I'm like, man, I got 130 of these bad boys. I really don't need another one. So I passed on it. Normally I wouldn't. So I guess to truly answer your question, which was a long-winded answer, is I'm just reevaluating, becoming smarter, more narrow-focused. Instead of having a shotgun approach, buying any house I could buy, now I'm using a rifle approach, and I'm dipping into wholesaling a little bit. Since, I've been doing this for a long time, a lot of people bring deals to me, and they want me to evaluate them, and I'm like, man, that's a deal, that's not a deal, and then they can't sell it, and I'll try to wholesale it for them and made some extra cash on the deal. So just real estate is such an amazing occupation. There's so many ways to make money. There's so many ways to be creative. I would never know that I would love something so much. It's weird.
Right on. So how can people find out more about you and get in touch?
All right. Well, I do a radio show just like you, and I'm excited. You're only at like 16 or 17. I'm stoked that you're still pushing through. A lot of people don't, it's hard doing podcasts, and I hope people write you and email you and say you're doing a good job, because you are helping people out there. I listened to a couple of them. I loved them. But I have a radio show as well. It's called The Savvy Radio Show, and it's SAVVYRADIO show.com. I'm the Savvy Landlord. You can Google that up in Amazon. I got a bunch of books out. You can go to my website, which is savvylandlord.me, or the savvylandlordbook.com, and you can Google me up and find it.
Great. Well, thanks so much for your time today.
All right, man. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
There you go. Hope you enjoyed that. All about mistakes. See, it's okay to make them. It's Lifestyle Hosting Radio on CILU 102.7 FM, luradio.ca, LifeStyleHousing.ca. Till next time, so long.
Investor Weekend is not far off, with over 10 information sessions to increase your portfolio. Log on to www.investorweekend.com. Whether you are a seasoned investor or never purchased a property before, you don't want to miss the Investor Weekend. Join us for a powerful, knowledge-packed weekend with over 10 informational sessions that are bound to enlarge your real estate investments. You will hear from the best national and local real estate investors that will share practical and relevant experiences with you, the investor. There will be several networking sessions to connect with other like-minded people for potential funding, partnerships, and yes, hot deals. Go to www.investorweekend.com. Did you know we meet once a month for the Landlord Lunch Meeting? The third Wednesday of every month. Go to landlordlunch.com.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter @LandlordBook and always be buying assets.